Hello.
Hi, hi, hi. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. I had a day off today, so I was feeling a little bit run down, so it's nice to have a midweek day off.
Oh, they're the best. I love them.
It's so good. How's your eclipse weekend last week, everything?
Oh, the weekend was pretty good. Well, it was pretty good. I didn't do much, which was nice because I'm a bit of a workaholic. So actually
Yeah.
having a weekend of just socializing and not doing much is really nice. But then I don't know what it is. I don't know how old you are, but like when you get to your mid 30s, your PMS gets so bad.
Really? I'm
Monday, it was
32 now.
Well, hopefully it won't, but what the cons because I thought it was just me, and then the consensus seems to be no, from mid 30s onward, all your PMS symptoms, like instead of being like 1 or 2 days, it's like from ovulation onwards sort of thing.
Oh my
And
gosh. Okay.
yeah, I know. But this sort of thing, like the dailies have kind of helped me have something to focus on.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, that's
Yeah.
good. Damn.
It's
Okay.
good.
Well, I hope it treats you as kind as it can. Honestly. Oh my gosh, how are you, Mama Go?
All good here, thank you. I've got quite a lot of background noise. I don't know if that's really noisy for you with the washing machine sound. You can't
No,
hear it?
no.
Oh, it's like shaking the room. Oh, yeah, all good here, thank you.
Oh,
Because of my training last week, I wasn't as consistent in like ticking all my boxes, but I felt like I still achieved the general feeling of what I wanted, which was more
yeah.
silence, stillness, more movement and learning. So yeah,
Yeah.
feeling good, feeling excited for this next week because I'm more grounded at home. I haven't got all of that other stuff going on, and
Yeah.
I can see what I've gathered so far and then start to place those tracks. So yes,
Yeah.
feeling good. Thank you.
Stunning. Fabulous. I can't believe we're at halfway point already. I feel like the last 2 weeks have gone
Blue.
so quickly, right? Yeah. It's wild. But I'm happy about it. I feel good. I'm at a point where I'm starting to do better.
Same, definitely.
Yeah, which is nice, which is nice. Okay, so we're gonna start with a meditation as always, but at the end of the meditation, I'd love to invite you to sort of think of a word or let this meditation sort of guide you to a word perhaps to hold on to over this next week, whether it's as an intention or it's as a reminder, bit of an anchor for yourself. So just wanted to pop that into your mind before we jumped in to the meditation. So whenever you're ready, feel free to get comfortable, close your eyes down. And just begin noticing your breath, getting comfortable where you're sitting, and just noticing your breath, each breath as you breathe in and out. You breathing in and out at whatever pace, speed that your body knows and desires to breathe. Just letting your body do its thing as it always has. Breathing in and out, breathing in oxygen, circulating, carrying life force through your bloodstream. And as you become more aware of your breath in this present moment, I invite you to begin noticing any tension that might be in your body from the last day, the week, whatever it might be. And just allow with each breath for those points to loosen, to let go. Feel free to move your body and shake it off if required. Let your breath guide you as you let these points of tension go. Any thoughts or feelings that might be circulating, let them fall away for a moment. And as you breathe and becoming even more grounded into this present moment, I want you to feel the ground beneath you, holding you steady. Noticing wherever your feet or your legs or your back, wherever it connects to the ground. Just notice the warmth and the support of the planet that is always holding you. And remembering this ground beneath you holding steady with each breath. I want you to begin imagining that pathway leading downwards into that lush green landing where we've been entering our portal, our super portal from. Imagine taking a gentle step forward down this path, slowly descending down, down towards that landing, lush green landing that we've been visiting every week around this time. And as you begin to reach that soft landing, allowing your feet or your body to guide you towards that lush green landing from before. Feel the grass touching the bottom of your feet. Hear the rustle and see colors flicker around you as you arrive in this space. Perhaps the air feels cooler and more still. Now, as you reach this landing, you begin to see an opening in front of you, slowly widening, a portal, perhaps with shimmering or sparkling edges, stretching and opening before you. And this time, I now invite you to float, to step, to shift and move into this portal, allowing it to open more wider, much bigger than we have had before. Stepping into this space within us, this portal, the place where we begin to believe and trust ourselves more deeply, where we become clearer on what matters most, and when we align with our values, our integrity, through our choices, our responses, and our daily rituals, the way we interact with the world around us. This all begins in this space. Perhaps you see pillars, perhaps there are branches or roots, symbols that mean something only to you. Whatever you do see or do not see, feel or don't feel, hear or don't hear, is exactly what you were meant to receive. Invite those beliefs that you have of yourself that are solid and supportive to strengthen even more now in this space. Allow those values that truly are yours to shine brightly and call you closer to it. Allow your unconscious mind to do the work that you know it can do, to show you what truly matters, what inspires, motivates, and gives meaning through this next week to come. Breathe in to this alignment where your values are your foundations, your beliefs, pillars upholding your life. Trust that no matter where you are always invited to release what cages you and step into the clarity of what is worth carrying forward. As we take a moment in this space, allowing our beliefs in ourselves to strengthen and our values to support us even more than ever. I invite you to invite a word to emerge for you to bring home to this present moment, to carry with you over this next week. It may or may not make sense, but trust that your unconscious knows what is needed at this time for you to strengthen your belief and your values of yourself first. So you may allow that to reflect to the world next. Ask your unconscious mind to gift you with a word or two. And when you are ready, slowly return back to the present moment, into your body, allowing these words to download into your psyche. Whenever you're ready, come back to now and open your eyes. Hmm. I'm curious, any words or phrases come to you? I'll let you have a moment.
Um, First word was magic.
Mm,
Nice.
love.
I liked that.
We love.
The other one didn't make sense. It was brush.
Mm,
It literally felt like it hit me in the head, like physically hit me in the head. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll take that on board. Whatever.
magic brush. Interesting. Okay. All right.
I
I'm
don't know that they're meant to be together, but
mhm.
separate, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's
Hmm.
see. Let's see what comes of that. I'm so curious.
I
Okay.
know.
One more
That's
go.
like
What?
an art app or something, like like Purikura with the art, like the sparkles as you brush across.
Yeah.
I want to have a go. Mine was very clear, and I was quite surprised by it because at first my conscious mind was like it'll be like brave or like
Yeah.
fire, but it was restore, and I was like, oh, okay. My subconscious mind must want me to go deeper into that restorative path.
Mm.
And I could very clearly see the words, the letters LIV. And I was like, is that trying to spell alive? Like do more things that make me feel alive, that take me to that edge, perhaps. But restore was just instantly there, very, very clear.
Wow. Interesting. Okay.
I know you
LIV.
were leading the meditation, but did you have anything that came up for you?
Yeah, to
During...
me, I think I felt the word when I said bring a word was release. That was my biggest one, which I feel is very not only on brand for it being eclipse season, but I feel like I've been doing a lot of releasing recently. So yeah, I guess I definitely am happy to do some more, and I know when it comes to beliefs, there's definitely always things that I can release, you know? So yeah, okay. All right. So I'm curious to see. I'm gonna remember these words and yeah, curious to see what symbols or what random sort of messages that might come. Yeah, who knows? You might come across a brush that makes sense, you know? That's like, oh, this is what it was. Maybe it's while you're brushing your hair. Who knows? I'm so curious. All right, well, yeah, okay. Let's get into the themes of this week. So we're halfway through, which means we're halfway up the pyramid of the logical levels framework as well. But the focus of this next week is on beliefs and values. And as I said, mentioned in the meditation as well, values are, to me, kind of like our foundations of reality. I think beliefs and values are both foundations, but beliefs are values are what matters most to us, right? They're qualities, they're sort of what motivates us, perhaps even principles that sort of guide our decisions, states of being that we consider to be most important for us to experience in our body, whether that is to feel loved and connected. Maybe it's a feeling of freedom and liberation. And maybe that's also not just an emotional sense, it's also like a physical sense. And maybe it's, freedom in your time, in your schedule, or freedom financially, however that might come up. Creativity, abundance, those are, states of beings that we can also value as well. And our values are what drives our choices. And it also gives us a sense of meaning when we are true to our values. So it is what matters the most. However, it's not to say that we don't take on other people's values or we don't try to make other people's values fit in to our own lives because I mean, we are taught a lot of different values from growing up, from different sources, from, you know, being in a family unit and families having certain, core values, family values, to even entering education systems and certain schools have certain types of values. For example, like I went to a performing arts school, so like the values that and they hired all artists that went to uni and got a teaching license so they could, be an artist but also pay their rent. So everybody at that school, all of our values were on performing, which meant that maths and science and anything academic was not we did not do well in that regard and we even went through like 9 science teachers in one year because none of the students valued it. And even our principal didn't quite value science in the way that I don't think he really understood how to recruit for a science teacher because he just, honestly, sometimes we would walk past his office and he would be playing his theremin or like his trumpet, you know? So the values of the management also really then showed in the results of we had really free-spirited, incredible artists. But when it came to academic standards and exams that we did have to participate in, because we are still a part of a system, education system, we were a very badly performing school, to a point where they actually ended up losing funding because they were like, you guys actually aren't teaching high school students what they need to know. I had left by that point, but so values can really affect, shared values can kind of put us in a bit of a bubble in a way. I think we've also seen that on social media too, right? Like where we follow people that we share values with, which is really great in a way because I think for most of us, there's parts of ourselves that perhaps, we haven't been able to feel like we've belonged or in certain aspects. Like for me personally, it wasn't until I was on Instagram that I got to connect with people that looked like me, that shared the same mixed variants of nationalities and races. So, that there's that beautiful thing about the internet where we can connect with people based on shared values, and that's really wonderful. But there is always, that other side of the coin where we can sort of end up in bubbles and that can then perhaps even limit us or limit our ability to critically think outside of that. It's like we kind of nest into each other a little bit based on shared values. So values, are very important on an individual level, and of course businesses need values too, but on an individual level, if we are clear and aware of what our values are, that makes it a lot easier for us to then navigate being a part of a collective where there are different people with different values and different spaces where we share values in some aspects, or have conflicting values in other aspects. And what comes into play, and this is why we can't really talk about values without beliefs, just like we couldn't really talk about skills without capacity, is that beliefs then, values are what matters to us the most, but beliefs are what we hold to be true. So sometimes that can be in conflict as well. Like we might believe something because we will always inherently believe in the things that we value and will also generally we will value the things that we believe as well. So if we hold something to be true and that is something that's important, even if it might not be true to other people. That can again sort of it's an aspect of our logic that has a pretty significant, I guess, resonance to it because, like I said, values and beliefs can are basically like foundations of our reality because it is also, if you remember in the framework, it also is what makes up our identity. So beliefs, yes, may be our own interpretations of reality. It's the stories that we hold to be true about ourselves, about other people, the world. So it is our stories, our our truths. But that can, believe it's almost like believing and seeing in a way that our beliefs and values are sort of, it has a bigger resonance than our skills and capacities because if we didn't believe in ourselves, that if we didn't believe that we could or we might be able to acquire a skill, that also makes it hard for us to acquire a skill. We can, you know, practice something. We can be told, okay, you should, for example, lots of people grow up and they're kind of told what extracurricular activities they should do. And it might be, I don't know, an instrument or a particular sport. And you can practice and practice and practice. And really, practice does make better. So you might improve, you might become really, really good, even if you personally didn't value it. But at a certain point, what happens then is that you might be able to improve in your skill, but in your, I guess, in it will begin to then, for example, if you didn't value that skill as much, what would happen is it would then trickle into your behavior, your responses, how you feel about doing this thing. Even if you can do it really well, and other people tell you, oh, you're so amazing at for example, yeah, you're so amazing at playing soccer and oh, you're number one in this team, but you only started doing this because you were told, okay, you need a hobby, you need extracurricular activity, and you've been put into this space where you almost then, depending on obviously, especially when we're children, because our parents are our guides when it comes to beliefs and values. That's how, a lot of people may sort of go into thinking, oh, this is who I'm meant to be because I'm told I'm really good at this and this is what I'm supposed to do. And, so I should value it. But at a certain point, and I've seen this happen a lot, going to performing art high schools, is that at a certain point in somebody's journey, it does tip over. If you do not value you become bitter about it. You become, yeah, you might continue to be really good at it, but your behavior and your capacity to experience it in like a joyful way, which is, an important value that I think most humans hold in experiencing joy. So there can be this yeah limiter that can happen when we are out of our values or out of our beliefs. So together, I guess what I'm trying to say is that not only do our what we believe and what we hold important make up our sense of identity and who we are, but it also then ripples down into what kind of skills we can acquire, how much of it we can acquire, and how that's going to help us navigate different environments and behave in ways that ultimately is going to serve us in serve us in a flow that we would want our lives to go, or in to outcomes, into connections, into a reality that we would want to exist in. So you'll, I guess, you know, beliefs and values. What I was trying to say with that example of, when you're a kid and you get put into like lessons that you don't value, I guess what I'm trying to get to that with that story is that our beliefs and values show up unconsciously in our behavior. So what we choose, you know, or what we avoid or what we resist, those things show where our beliefs and values are going to be. And it is what gives us the why behind the behavior and the skills and the capacity. So values in a way provide direction, while beliefs determine whether you see that direction as possible, I guess. So if you valued freedom, but yeah, if you valued freedom, but also believed, oh, I'm not really good with money, your behavior will likely sabotage your ability to create that financial freedom because you have a conflict between your beliefs and your values. So, where we want to begin with our beliefs, I guess sorry, I should say, when we're trying to figure out what our true values and beliefs are, I like to go in by starting to look at values and asking myself, okay, what is most important to me, and where am I honoring that? And that's, looking at where do I feel energized, even energized, I guess, mentally or emotionally, even if it's something is physically taxing and tiring, versus where am I feeling drained, like mind, body, and spirit after doing something. That's a quick one because our bodies our communicators of, our intuition, yes, but our bodies also communicate what's in our unconscious. So if there is something like a value misalignment, your body's gonna feel it, right? Our values also show up in how we spend our time and how we prioritize our time, which is why it can feel so crushing when we, for example, have to interact with capitalism for the purpose of like survival, right? In ways that we might not, like I always think to, in my early 20s and trying to survive, and like I have all the beautiful dreams, but I gotta do the thing to show up and go to work. And I know it's supposed to be valuable because it's supposed to make me money, but I kept catching myself like this feels like a waste of my time. This is not this is not in my value. And obviously eventually I was able to start aligning my values with how I also, ensure I could survive capitalism. But I guess that's, it's important to, I guess, in a way, acknowledge like there is a bit of privilege in being able to do that as well, because it is a world that really wants to, the way that capitalism and patriarchy and imperialism is set up, they want to tell us what our values is. They want to tell us what our beliefs should be. And our values, the way that should be, time is money, and our values should be, our values as people can be proven by our material success. And so, there's all of these narratives that we are constantly bombarded by and we've been through our whole lives. So I think it is so fair that whenever we go in and do look at our values and our beliefs, there is things to still sort of work on. And I think, I mean, I've made my peace with it. I believe that that's the spice of life. But it took me a second to really be able to believe that that's the spice of life, to be able to deal with and to take time and understand myself and even in my imperfection, I guess. So when we're looking at where there is misalignment in our values, it's always in our behaviors, it's always in how we're spending our times, and if the way that we're spending that time doesn't feel good. And it's almost as simple as that, because like I said, values is what matters the most, and what matters the most fills our heart. There is an emotion attached to it, and yet, again, I do want to acknowledge that sometimes we do go through phases, surviving this world, where we do have to choose, for example, like urgency and over what matters most. We have to quick fixes over what matters most. And so the work, that we do when we're looking at our values and beliefs is hopefully, sort of shifting that needle just a little bit so we can stand up for ourselves a little bit more in that we're holding more integrity in what matters most. So one of the questions that I like to ask myself when I'm really taking stock of my values is I start by checking in on what my like recent value areas are. So like what's most important to me in my life? Like what areas do I want to fulfill, or what cups would I like, is most important for me to fill in this season. And I guess another one to share like on another one of my values, or I guess it's more like my habits, is I try to look at, of course, I have some big dreams and, long-term goals, but for me personally, I found it easier to sort of look at these things at a seasonal sort of perspective rather than like looking at, I'd like to do my values at least like around New Year's time. I usually do them around Lunar New Year's. And it's also a fun activity to do with friends because we can ask each other what's important, and also like it helps us sort of tap into, yeah, what's everyone's priority. So it is easier to sort of support one another as a community if you know what your friends are really valuing. So I would say like maybe every equinox or solstice, every 6 months, that could be a really good sort of time limit, I think, as far as like checking in with your values. But yeah, looking at what areas are most important, what cups are most important to fill, and then even then looking at each cup and asking a similar question, like what's most important to me about like wellness, what's most important to me about my family, what's most important to me about my social life, if that's one of the cups. And then even looking at like where do I most feel alive in my social life, where do I most feel alive in my family, or where do I feel you know the most drained, or where do I feel like there's perhaps even like a neglect, in that specific area. And that can also help me understand where I am honoring my values and where I might be perhaps neglecting or unaware that that might be my value. Because sometimes, a new value might emerge from life shifting, and you might not have caught onto it just yet. So Values is, yeah, like I said, values is what I like to look at first. So I know what matters most to me. And then on top of that, I like to lay on understanding what my beliefs are, whether it is limiting or not. I like to take stock of it without judging one or the other. And again, with beliefs, our behaviors do give us clues as to what our beliefs are. But I think the one of the most obvious place where we can identify what beliefs we do have is around how we talk to ourselves or how we talk about ourselves to other people. So like, words I can't, I don't, like, I'm not the kind of person, I'm just not one to, I always do this, oh, I never this. Those types of sentences that start with those phrases either tell us, tend to tell us what our beliefs are, often leads to what our limiting beliefs might be. And although I don't think procrastination is a bad thing, I know that I need to procrastinate. I need to just like, I always call it buffering time. Like I'm just my whole being just needs a little buffer, The network's a lot. So it just needs a little buffer. But I do then, notice I can go into that other, I guess, sort of swing of the of the pendulum in the way where maybe I'm not actually procrastinating, maybe I'm frozen in a way, or I'm resisting, or I'm avoiding, and I'm saying to myself, "Oh, I'm just procrastinating. Like, oh, I could take my time with this. Like, I'm just gonna." So it is important to be able to catch yourself. And I think that comes with taking time whether it is once a year or every however many months of taking stock on these things like our beliefs and values, because I think so many of us, it's like life moves so fast. Like we were saying, the last 2 weeks went by really quickly. So I think it's nice to sort of give ourselves these rituals, bigger rituals, and really ritualize them. I think, playing with beliefs and values, and I think it's a fun little things. Again, I think the most fun way to look at your beliefs and values is with people around, because it gives you a moment to get outside of yourself and sort of reflect. And also if you do it with friends and people that you trust and know you, that also gives you a quicker chance to snap out of a limiting belief that might come up in those discussions of your friends saying, no, that's not true for you. Sometimes it's harder to sort of catch things or even say that to yourself if you've practiced having that limiting belief for so long, or so for so many times. Other things that I think show where there is sort of some kind of a conflict in your belief is obviously like when you have judgments about other people. I also find that that's where I tend to find my own limiting beliefs about myself. Or I think we even might have talked about this maybe in the chats, but like even jealousy, I've found that like when I'm jealous of somebody, I've learned to tell myself it's because like I know I can have that, but I haven't given myself a chance to have that or even attempt to have that. So I try to look at like points of jealousy, or when I even feel like I'm slipping into that competitive mode, being on social and whatever. I guess I just kind of try to go, okay, that's really cool. Like I want to do that too. Like I try to change it to like, oh, like she did that. Cool. whatever. I tried to get, okay, I want to do that too. Like, how can I do it? But like, how do I do it in my own way? And I give myself time to do it. And I remind my ego, like being like, we don't have to resolve this right now. Like, we don't have to make this better. Like, it's okay. Like, if you do feel a little bit green, like every time you see their name pop up for a little while, because it's gonna go away. Like, it's not, I believe in myself enough. I believe in my capacity enough. Like I have to check in with myself, and I have to tell myself, don't we believe in ourselves enough to maybe, do that too if we really want to? And and then I guess that comes into installing other beliefs from inspiring sources, right? Because when I, go into that, oh, well, what I could potentially have that too. I just have to give myself more capacity. Maybe I have to be more disciplined. Maybe I have to behave differently. But when I do get into that, I also remind myself like what's meant for me will always be mine whenever it's meant to be mine. And that's, that's a belief that I think I've installed in myself over time, by taking time to notice the little things, I think. And that's also another key thing is like when you're looking for confirmation or affirmation, I like to look for the little things, the little symbols. So that's why yeah, wanted to invite you to think of a word and to see what how where that word might take you over this next week. But what do you guys like to do with your limiting beliefs if you've done any work with them? What is sort of like how do you deal with like, oh, like when you notice, oh, whether it's yeah, maybe both limiting beliefs and values, like how do you deal with realizing that and what do you do with that usually?
One example I can think of is I had a limiting belief for a long time that I couldn't be consistent. And that was always, oh, I can't be consistent. That's just who I am. And to be able to actually, I think the first thing I was consistent in was doing the morning pages for 12 weeks
Mm,
and I did all of it. And to be able to do that, I had to set up so many systems. And so it wasn't even that I kind of talked myself around. I was like, I have to prove to myself that I can do this. But to do that, I can't just say I'm going to do it. I have to put my book on the table every night to make sure it's there and remove every obstacle, make
mm,
it enjoyable, have a chart that I tick. So it tends to be even with different behaviors. I've got a star chart for my gym and movement
yeah.
activities. I always have to have something. I can't just say it. And maybe when it comes to things that perhaps aren't so active or things that you can't tick off because it's more behavioral,
Mm,
I'll have to go deeper into that with my thoughts and maybe journal it out and then look for evidence that I'm changing. So yeah, it's never just, I'm just going to do it and then I do, because that doesn't happen for me.
yeah, yeah. I love it checking off my list. Oh, that is a beautiful feeling. Yeah. Any other ways, Jelly? Do you have a little ritual for?
Well, the thing that's been the most helpful for me, and it's probably not the best thing to replicate, is if someone tells me I can't do something, all of a sudden, whatever that limiting belief was, if someone, even if they do it in a nice way,
Mm,
like I had a really depressing period, and my parents actually said to me, "Oh, if you want to defer like uni for a year, that's so fine. Like
mm.
you can just." I ended up doing a year and a half project in 2 weeks and getting an HD out of anger at the suggestion that I couldn't do it. Like, and that's just been replicated throughout my
Mm,
life. But I'm trying to kind of figure out, and similarly to Momo, I find that I have to set everything has to be visually there. I have to set the scene
hmm.
and I have to kind of preempt and take note of anything that causes me to fail.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
I hear that. Yeah. Some rituals. Yeah. We all
Yeah.
have our own sort of ritual and like, what you both described is like, yeah, you have to behave in a certain way, have, create a capacity or a skill in a way, or use the skills that you do have or you've seen other people's behavior and sort of putting that into a flow of, yeah, ritual, basically. And that's really, I think that's probably one of the most potent ways to removing any type of limiting beliefs. I mean, also, sacred wrath, like spite. I think there is something powerful about spite. That feeling of spite that, and I think it's when you can use it, when you sort of, I don't think it happens every time there's spite, but I have had that experience where somebody's like almost agreeing to like what I'm feeling, but I don't want anybody to be like, no, it's okay, you can't do that. And I'd be like, yep, I'm gonna show you I can. Yeah, there is something special about that spite. And I've been talking about with this eclipse, like this, I've had a lot of conversations with people from different areas about, yeah, sacred wrath as well. This, yeah, like I said in yesterday's transmission, there's this fieriness, this, but something really beautiful and like, I don't know what the English word for it is, but yeah, there's something about that type of emotion. It is, I think it is so unstable that I think if you really didn't truly value that thing, like for example, like you finishing, a project or getting your degree or whatever it was, like if you didn't truly, truly value it, it could have gone a different way. But I think because you had such a strong foundation of like valuing your journey and what you were working on at that time, I imagine that was like how the spite really shot up there. And I think with, yeah, beliefs, like we talked about this last week, but we go through the phases of like awareness, acceptance, and action. But I think when it comes to belief, there's a few more steps to that. Like, yes, awareness. So, becoming aware of what we do have, what we believe in or, not believe in about ourselves, or what's important or what's not important about ourselves. But then when we can go, okay, let's say I'm not good with money. I'm just gonna go with that one. Like, yes, I hold that belief because fighting it, being like trying to, when you believe in something, and I mean, in ways, there's affirmations and mantras, and that can work. But if you really truly want to shift that belief, you kind of need to interrupt it. You need to challenge it. Not just acknowledge that it's there, but you also want to challenge it. Like, is this actually universally true? Like, are you truly bad with money? Like, where is the evidence? And if there is evidence if you've been bad for money, then that also helps with the acceptance of it, right? To put it right in front of you. Because if you don't put it right in front of you, again, you can't get to the acceptance part of it. And in that action that we take, when it's a limiting belief, for example, I think it's important to create a new belief that, I guess, counteracts what you're letting go. You're kind of letting go of one, it's a bit of a give and take. So you're giving away this old belief that no longer serves you, and you're taking in something that relates to that belief, but in replacement of it. And I think, by reinforcing your new belief, if it's going from I'm bad at money to, I flow with money, we also need to have certain small behaviors that help us reinforce that belief and begin to build bigger capacity and perhaps even more skill in that belief. And that will eventually help us shift our identity to be somebody who really does flow with money and not just says they believe it, or that perhaps are just beginning, it just becomes a part of you. I guess when every behavior that we take, there is a positive intention, and that is that we can, when we observe our behaviors without judgment, we can update it, we can transform it, we can align it with who we're becoming. So if there's a behavior that's sort of showing us, oh, okay, I'm feeling really drained after being with this group of people, or I keep telling myself like I can't do this, but I really want to do this, or I see somebody doing that and I would love to have it, but I my brain keeps telling me that I can't do this. If we're noticing those things, if we can observe it just without judgment, we can begin to, yeah, take on, break it apart, and shift it into what we can believe in, what we can value. So over the last, well, this is the third week we're starting, but last 2 weeks we started with the environment, the ground underneath us, the spaces that we live in and exist in, and looking at the external, I guess, the mirror of our internal world. And then last week we focused on how we acted within that environment, the tools and the methods and the how, like, of the abilities that we build, and the resources that we draw on to really create this environment into one that feels like us, that honors us. And this week we're going a little bit deeper into the why of what we do, or why we do what we do, I should say, and what we hold as true, what truly matters to us. And with this, with the layers kind of building into each other, I guess, our capacity, as it expands, it also builds what we believe we're capable of. So once again, kind of as I was saying last week, we come back to this sort of concept of all of these levels looping back to each other, as above, so below, as within, so without. It is a spiral of that change, as I mentioned, over the last couple of years. And yes, when we shift one layer, the others ripple. Sometimes, and with the beliefs and values, the first 2 weeks we were looking at the root chakra area, and then the sacral, and even into the ego. But now with the beliefs and values, we're sort of going into the upper chakra systems, which is sort of like the higher frequency energy points. And I guess from this space, what's happening is that we are going from just connecting into what's in our unconscious, to we're also connecting into what might be coming through beyond our unconscious, or our higher conscious. So we might even, it's like that thing of like not really, sometimes I feel like our beliefs and our values reflect, or come to us in ways that are nonsensicals, like that word brush, or for example, when I made the decision to resign from my job a few weeks ago, I had pulled out cards to really be like, okay, is this what am I going to really do this? What am I going to do? And I pulled my cards out. And before I even like really looked at the cards, that song, I don't even know who the artist is, that song, I'm walking away from the troubles in my life, started playing. And then this bird, who I call my grandpa bird, because this bird has been showing up since my grandpa's passed away. And obviously, I have a belief that, my ancestors will come to me in different ways. Well, this bird literally just sat on my window, and my brain's still playing that song, and I'm looking at my grandpa bird, and I look down at my cards and I go, I don't even need to read this. Like, this is just a very clear sign. And I did obviously read through the cards, and the cards really literally just served me all the things like what is it? Eight of Swords. Yeah. Where I'm oh no, Six of Swords where I'm like on a boat shifting away. There's a lot, there was a tower card. Yeah, so there was a lot that was like, okay, we're moving on. So, like I said, there's sometimes we're getting into the realm of ourselves, our logic, where our logic is starting to be informed by things that we're not necessarily logically comprehending. So over the next week, I'm curious to see, yeah, how those sort of words sort of echo through your week, and what other beliefs or other values might pop up as you become, yeah, more sort of aware of this specific theme. And with that, I might close today's transmission. I'm going to leave you with some extra journal prompts in the chat. And if anybody's curious, I think I've shared this previously as well, but I'll reshare Dr. Demartini's 13 questions list because that's probably the easiest way to check in on your current values as well. I find that tool to be perfect for that. Yeah. Any questions, any thoughts before we head off into our evenings and days?
But no questions, but a funny little synchronicity. So
Mm.
the singer who sang that song is Craig David, and I used to work for him when I worked in London. And yesterday I was just looking around in at my family home and I found one of his old CDs that I think has that song in it. And I took it to play in my car. And then I was
No.
talking about it with my friend last night. I haven't thought about him for ages.
Wow.
It's so funny that you just mentioned it.
Amazing. Well, I hope you play that CD in your car. And
Yeah, I'll think of you.
yeah,
He's
think
walking
of
away.
me. Yeah. Love that. Beautiful. Amazing. All right, my dears. Well, I will let you both go. Thanks for being here, and I will catch you guys on Discord through the week. All right. Have a gorgeous week, and I'll see you soon. Thanks, guys.
Right.